Shel Pink has an unambiguous vision for her life and her business. As founder and visionary leader of Spa Ritual, a leading international spa beauty brand, she has turned her life's work of creating clean, cruelty-free products into a form of quiet activism. She advocates for a world of more poetry and more thought to counterbalance life's frenetic pace, where we are careful with the words we use to build care and connection, as opposed to the current divisive nature of our public discourse, and setting clear boundaries, which gives us all space and time to balance the soul work with the practical work of living. Thank you, Shel, for inviting us all to slow down and take deep, meaningful care of the gift and the mystery of our lives. Hello, and welcome to another installment of At the Podium with me, Patrick Huey. At the Podium is a platform where we will learn from people who come from different walks of life, careers, and experiences, but all share one thing in common. They have stepped fully into the transformative power of saying yes to the unexpected turns of their lives, and they are now using the power of their voice or podium to make an impact on the world we live in today. At the Podium is the intersection of art, culture, and big thoughts wrapped up in good, old-fashioned conversation. Today, I'm thrilled and humbled to share the podium with Shel Pink. Shel Pink is the author of the book Slow Beauty and the Slow Beauty Journal online. She is the founder and visionary leader of Spa Ritual Beauty brand. Spa Ritual is a vegan beauty brand inspired by conscious, clean beauty, spa culture, and the art of self-care. At Spa Ritual, they believe slowing down to return home to yourself is the path to help reduce stress, anxiety, and set healthy boundaries for the 24/7 culture we live in. They are committed to creating healthy body care products and programs for the spa professional and the self-care activist. Their roots are firmly planted in the ancient and present healing traditions of the spa. Shel believes that self-care is not product-centric or a luxury. It is a medium for connection and healing, connection to self, others, and nature. Before we hear from Shel, I want to invite you to share at the podium with the people in your lives. If you find our conversation today valuable, and I certainly hope you will, take a screenshot and share on your Instagram and tag at the podium _ Patrick Huey. Or if you're on Facebook, share our link there. Your shares, likes, and 5-star written reviews help grow our audience and move us up the charts. I am grateful for your help in this capacity. Okay, Shel, welcome to At the Podium.
Hi, Patrick. Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
I am so happy that we finally were able to work out the time for you to come and sit down with me and share some of your thoughts about the world, beauty, your wisdom. I'm so happy you're here, Shel.
Thank you.
I was so excited to speak with you today because your work inspired the very first newsletter that I wrote for the website. Now, to give a little background to the listeners, you and I met about 7 years ago when I was working for Sandals Resorts in the Caribbean, overseeing their spa programming. And we brought in Spa Ritual as a key treatment line for all of our spas in every country. And in our first spa leadership conference, we brought all the spa leaders together in White House, Jamaica, I believe we were in.
Yeah.
White House, Jamaica. You were the keynote. And you spoke about the power of the word abracadabra. It was breathtaking. And it left such an impression on the team and on me that all of these years later, the concept of abracadabra underlined that very first newsletter. And I want you to, in your words, tell us, what is abracadabra?
First of all, I just want to say that was such a wonderful experience to be with you and your team at Sandals all those many years ago. And I was really, starting to I was speaking a lot about slow beauty and, the whole philosophy around spa ritual and just my thoughts about the beauty industry in general. And so, yeah, abracadabra was one of the concepts that are part of the whole slow beauty philosophy that I was just sharing. And I'm just so thrilled that it resonated so much with you and with the team. I have to say that that really helped me shape what later became my book. It was kind of the first time I had been writing about slow beauty for over a decade, but a lot of the ideas kind of came together. And I want to thank you for giving me that opportunity to be the keynote there, because it was really fun to get everybody's responses. It helped inspire the book coming to fruition. So abracadabra is really, it's Aramaic for I create what I speak. We're so familiar with that word as being part of, magic. And I think you even mentioned this in your newsletter, like kind of pulling the rabbit out of the hat. And I think what happens with a lot of words is we become so used to hearing them all the time that they actually lose their meaning and their context. So I think that's one of those words that, we hear so often. We may associate it with, childhood and magic, but it's such a wonderful word. And when I started researching what it was all about and the etymology of it and learned that it's Aramaic for I create what I speak, I just felt that that was so much part of the slow beauty philosophy and having a self-care practice and just, thinking about the words that we speak internally or to each other. And I think it's more important than ever to really think about that word and the idea and the context when we're in a world where there's so much talking all the time. And mostly we aren't careful with the words that we share and what we speak. And we're speaking in a really divisive world. So I think it's a really prescient word to talk about.
You said something that really just struck me. We had a conversation with a woman on the podcast. Her name is Adrienne Carter. She's a writer and an actress in Hollywood, very successful writer. And she said that part of her journey to becoming comfortable in her own skin was really being cautious and careful about the words she said to herself about herself.
Yes.
And you just referenced that, which struck that off in my mind, because we can have a whole conversation about the way words and language are used in the current social lives that we all live. But I think sometimes our biggest enemy can be the words that we say to ourselves. We can tear our own selves down, be our own biggest stumbling block.
Absolutely. And I think that, just when we're, I know we're going to be getting more into self-care and it's, meditation has been a big part of my life and my practice, my slow beauty practice, my self-care practice. And the thing about meditation is that it allows you an opportunity to be more observational about the thoughts that you're thinking instead of being caught up in the spiraling of those thoughts. And it's helpful to kind of make space between you and your thoughts. And meditation is a great tool to use to help you do that. Because yes, it's true. We need to think about the thoughts that we're thinking about ourselves. And it's important to be compassionate and patient. And it starts, it starts with us, what we're thinking, and then is a wave out from there, ripples out from there.
There's a tradition around the power of language. Every religion almost has this, the power of how you speak and what you say and how you use your words and your tongue to build up or destroy. That's really important when you talk about self-care and you talk about the idea of slow beauty. And you've mentioned it several times. Can you explain what slow beauty is? And it's a beautiful book. Thank you for signing one for me.
Sure. Slow beauty was really my response to the fast beauty of what our industry is, what it always has been, and what it actually continues to be. So it really is kind of this antithesis of instant results and quick fixes and just an idea or a concept that maybe it's okay to just slow down every once in a while and take deep and meaningful care of ourselves. We live in a very fast world, and slow beauty is a reminder and also permission to slow down. We don't always have to be so caught up being a victim of culture or of the zeitgeist. It's creating boundaries around this fast 24/7 world and this lifestyle that we're all a part of. and helping us each discern in our own way what our needs are, what is helpful and compassionate and loving for ourselves. It's being less reactive. Ultimately, it's about deeply loving, deep love. And if we really care for ourselves in deep and meaningful ways, well, we're going to be able to better care for others and the world around us.
You talk about this concept of setting boundaries. We live in a time when we don't set great boundaries.
Yeah.
We leave work and we get emails and texts till all hours of the night, and you're expected to respond. You talk a lot about the idea of self-care as activism.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if this concept of setting boundaries and saying, I get to have space between my thought and my word and my action. In a way, it's revolutionary. In the time that we live, where we're literally a giant id in the zeitgeist right now. We feel it, we say it, and whatever happens, so be it.
Exactly.
You're advocating for something different, which is set boundaries, meditate, be intentional and mindful about how you interact with other people and yourself. But I love the idea of self-care as activism, because it turns the whole beauty industry, the whole wellness industry on its head. Correct?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And there's an aspect of vigilance to it, I guess, in a way, but not to add to our stress and anxiety, just to bring more sensuality to the world, that this kind of fast-paced, hard world that we're living in, and more thought and more poetry. So yeah, I agree. It's definitely meant to challenge the status quo of this fast pace. And it's something, it's kind of quiet. It isn't a loud thing. Like slow beauty isn't loud. And I've been, speaking about it for so many years. I'm not a loud person. So it's kind of something that you kind of either discover or you don't. It's really quiet, and it's available when people have the courage to slow down and to be in their silence or to be a little bit alone. So it's available in that kind of space and environment.
Is it an introverted approach?
That's an aspect to it. I think, there's aspects to it that are introverted. I think to access it, there's definitely that part to it. I think the extroverted, I think it's a balance between accessing it through an introverted vein, and then you can express yourself out in the world and in an extroverted way. But there's definitely a quietness to it and observational aspect to it.
When I talk to you, it's pretty evident that this movement around slow beauty and the work that you're doing at Spa Ritual is not an occupation for you. It is clearly a passion, a heart's passion. I want to know where that all started. Who introduced you to this concept?
It started being seeded for me in, when I was young and growing up, and my mom was really into health and well-being and wellness way before it was, popular or trendy. And she just introduced me to a lot of alternative healing methods. And she introduced me to the spa at a really young age, and not for luxury purposes, but more, how to slow down and take care of yourself and healthy eating. And she made me really aware of potential toxins in the environment. So I was just really acutely aware of pesticides, being sprayed, and growing up in our, neighborhood, she would, make sure we weren't, windows were closed or we weren't, nearby. So I was just really acutely aware of all of these things growing up. And, she was also someone who was fashionable. And so for me, like beauty and well-being and wellness and self-care, like they were all kind of blended together. There was an intersection there for me very early on. And I was really interested in it. It's like our mantra growing up was kind of like health is wealth. Like if you don't have your health, what do you really have? It starts there. If you're not healthy, how do you really engage in the world? You want to be your best self and your healthiest self, to show up and do the work that you're meant to be doing in the world. So I left home to go to college, and I just continued on this path, and then discovered meditation there. And I suddenly became interested in yoga. At the time, there were no yoga studios on campus. I graduated many years ago. So I had to find a place off campus and, everything was very on the margins and very alternative. That's where it all started. And then I just kept going with it and continue with it.
How did you take that though, and then make that leap into body care, beauty products, and come up with the concept, the vision for what Spa Ritual now is?
So when I had this amazing opportunity to start a brand, a beauty care line with my husband's family business many years ago, I was pregnant with my son, and I just started researching ingredients on beauty care packaging because it's something that my mom showed me. That was one of those things. So that's just like an automatic thing I always did, like, well, what's in it or what isn't in it? And do I want to put this on my body? And then you become even more aware as a soon-to-be mother, like, what are you exposing? Not only, what am I exposing myself to? What am I exposing my child to? So I had this opportunity to start a line, and so I started to look at ingredients that was in nail polish, and there was an ingredient that was kind of, a few ingredients that were hot button ingredients at the time, and I decided to launch the nail care line without those ingredients. So we were the first brand on the market to be, free of and vegan, and thinking about compassion towards animals and the environment. About a year later, I launched the body care range. I mean, we've been around for over 15 years now. So the brand has had several iterations, and it was really important that we were looking holistically at the ingredients that were in the formula and the impact that the packaging had on the environment. And so it was taking like my passion from my upbringing about health and well-being, and then just wanting to infuse that into a line of products that we were going to put out into the marketplace and going to put into the hands of professionals, spa professionals and salon professionals that use our products day in and day out. And they're the most exposed to the products. I wanted to make sure that they had something healthy, a healthy option, and that they could also educate their clients that come to see them about bringing this idea home and choosing healthier products. So that was the initial idea behind bringing Spa Ritual into the world.
And could you imagine when you made that first lacquer, that first nail polish, what it would become?
I really believed in my vision, and I believe that I called them at the time the enlightened consumer. I felt like if we don't live in a vacuum, we're part of a collective. And I knew that if I was feeling this way, there were so many other people out there that were feeling this too, or that needed this, that wanted to make a healthier choice. Maybe they didn't have the vocabulary around it yet. They didn't know where to go. There wasn't that much around to access it, but it took a while. When we first launched it, there were so many no's and so many naysayers and so many people saying that it was just going to be a fleeting trend. It was discouraging, but I really believed in it so much. And now, it's just the thing.
It's the thing. I've talked to several people in the spa industry on this podcast. And there is a consistent theme that when they first started, there was a lot of no. And there may have been some naysayers who are like, aren't you supposed to be a high-powered executive at a marketing firm? Aren't you supposed to be an accountant? How did you overcome those no's?
I can't help but be who I am. I'm sure like all the other people that you mentioned. And it didn't always feel great to hear that. And you feel like you're alone in it. But you know what? There were people that believed in it, and I paid attention to those voices. And there were people that it spoke to them in really profound ways. And you get those messages or you have those conversations. You just keep going. But it was hard. I look back and there were definitely some really tough moments of naysayers, not only externally, but internally as well. But you just keep going.
You make it sound like it's just like so easy, Shel. But
no.
No's have stopped many people from moving forward. And I think the brilliance of you is that ability to take in the no, hear it, maybe internalize it, maybe not, and move on in spite of or because of that. That to me seems to be where the magic really lies for people, because part of what the podcast is about is helping people to find the way to say yes, even if the yes is in the face of a lot of no's and a lot of doubts. In a way, you epitomize that in this very different kind of way.
I just believed in it so much. I saw inklings and the intuition and, little thoughts that will bubble up, or like little clues that you'll see out in the world during the day. And that's what keeps me going and is the magic of life. It's like those kind of mysterious messages or clues that can help you unfold your story or what your journey is or your narrative that you're involved in or the myth that you're living out.
Living out the myth.
Yeah.
I love that. We got to create our own myths.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of the zeitgeist now. That's what is helpful, is just what is your personal myth and making a commitment to that with all its twists and turns.
How do you take this concept that you have and this great inspiration that you have, and how do you marry that with the real demands of what it takes to take a product from conception on a page through different renderings of that product, different stages of that product, to when it's sitting in a person's hand? That's not an easy birth. So how do you marry those two, this high inspiration with a real need to produce a product at the very end of that? Otherwise, it's just a great idea.
It's really using like different parts of the brain and the heart. And besides the fact, like, to have an amazing team and, company behind the brand, obviously that's really critical and key. It's like compartmentalizing a bit. So like knowing when you have to do kind of those practical aspects of building a brand and bringing something to market. That's really about consumerism and capitalism, marrying, kind of having, that compartmentalizing that with more of like the soul work that is slow beauty, or even, intrinsic in the name spa ritual. That's been a main part of my journey with all of this, is knowing how to balance the soul work and the practical work out in the world. And it isn't easy. I don't always do it with a smile. Some of that more practical work, I have to really use a lot of my mental and emotional capacity to make it happen, because I definitely do lean more towards, the soul work or the humanities and that aspect of it. So it's just about striking that balance every day, or trying to, at least.
You have this line, and then you started writing a book. Yes. How did that evolve for you?
I had been writing a lot about slow beauty over the years. I think like almost over a decade ago, I started, I coined the term, and I started writing about it, and I would do some blog posts or, incorporate it into the Spa Ritual brand. And honestly, I mentioned that early when we first started speaking, like that opportunity that you gave me to come and be the keynote at Sandals, that was like a critical milestone for me, that from there, I had the outline to the book. When I came, I was kind of pulled together all the research I had been doing and presented it to all of you. And it really resonated. And that was inspiring for me and exciting. And from there, I left and started on the outline. And then I'm totally paraphrasing, but there's, Joseph Campbell, who wrote The Hero's Journey. He talks about like, when you're on that path and it's the right path, like the doors just start flying open. That's just what happened. I thought there was a book agent that had been in touch with me over the years. And I would say, I'm not ready. This isn't a book. It's some blog posts or it's a conversation. And that's just what happened. I had the outline started and I'm like, maybe I should reach out to the book agent again and say, I think I'm ready. And then she called me. The path, it just opened up, and I wrote the outline and the proposal, and she set me up with meetings with a few different publishing houses. And then I received a few offers, and then just chose to go with Running Press, of their subsidiary of Hachette. And it was such an amazing choice. I'm really happy I went with them. And that's how that happened.
What I think is so interesting about you, the person, Shel, is that I feel like you are the iron fist and the velvet glove because you accomplish really great things, but the touch is so genuine. And the touch is from this really big place of love, this real underneath fire in the belly for slow beauty, and this idea of living a contemplative, but not a reclusive life.
Yes.
You don't fit the mold of a typical CEO.
I'm
which
not.
is brilliant.
I'm not.
But I think that's inspirational for so many people who may not necessarily be that person who people go, oh yeah, one day you're going to run an airline or you're going to have X, Y, and Z, that there's room at this table for many different types of visions and many different types of temperaments and different passions. What do you think?
I agree with you. I appreciate your explaining me that way. I think it's true. I think you're right on. I'm definitely not a CEO, and I'm not a CEO of Spa Ritual even, I'm more of a creator, a founder. But yeah, I mean, it is about the balance. You can create in a vacuum, but if you don't have the discipline part to put it out in the world, it's just not going to get out there. I'm just not someone, I don't like labels. I really believe people can reinvent. You can reinvent yourself. You can reinvent your brand. I definitely want to be the person that gives people permission to do that. It gives myself permission to do that, because I can't stand being labeled as one thing, because I feel like I'm so many things and I have so many interests and so many things inspire me. So I want that freedom to be able to reinvent myself, continue to reinvent myself at any age, and that age shouldn't stop you.
I think sometimes the biggest and the best reinventions happen when you think, oh, I'm done.
Yeah.
And then the doors start to open because you let go a little bit and you allow, you didn't refer to it this way, but you allow the inspiration to lead you. You allow the voices that are inside to find expression. And sometimes I can create that second chapter or that third chapter or that open the door to many things you never thought would be possible for yourself.
It's so true. And sometimes when you let go and allow yourself the room for the inspiration to enter, the new forms of inspiration can be really uncomfortable, because you think, oh no, maybe I won't be engaging in the world in such a creative way again. And it can be really scary, but it's important, because we are, another big part of slow beauty is, seasonal self-care, and we are the seasons. There's a fall season when you need to let the tree, kind of like the leaves fall, and winter to come and things to freeze over a bit, and it's more internal. But spring does come again, and things start to bloom, and there's abundance and there's color. And I think we need to really honor those processes in our life that happen in different phases of our life, to remember that spring does come again, like the thaw will happen. Faith, it's really about having faith in that process.
You just gave me chills. Just gave me chills. Because no one talks like that right now, really. We don't talk about, they're going to be sad moments, and they're going to be moments of reflection, and they're going to be fruitful moments of creativity, and there'll be moments of abundance. And it's all the journey of life that we're on.
Yes, it's the abracadabra. It's the magic, the magic and the mystery of life. Yes.
I want to know who outside of your mother, because I know she played a huge role in your life. Who was the biggest influence in your life as an artist and as a person, and why?
I don't know if there's been one major person. I think I'm inspired. I write about this in the book also. I am inspired by so many people that aren't alive. I have a lot of inspiration from artists, architecture, literature, nature. I'm really open to different veins of inspiration. And so I can't really point to one specific person. I can tell you like what I'm really right now, like Spain, for example, has been really consistently inspirational to me for quite a long time. I studied in Madrid when I was in college for a semester. I went back after I graduated to teach English there. I was, it's interesting to me after being, quarantined in a pandemic. Barcelona was the first place I traveled to after it was, once it was safe, I felt safe enough to travel. And I think what's interesting to me about Spain is, and like maybe even like Barcelona in particular, it's like the kind of polymorphism of it, like how Gaudi, the architecture of Gaudi and how he weaves so many different things together and how unique the outcome is, or the Catalan, the link, how it's like a combination of French and Spanish. And so I think it's the collaging that really inspires me now more than ever. And I also think life is like that too right now. It's a lot of collaging. And I think we're all kind of picking up, we have like we're getting different information from, podcasts and social media channels or little conversations that we're having with people. So I think that's what's really inspiring me now. I'm delving into Spanish, the novels and poetry of Spain. And it's like I'm revisiting it. I should say that. Like it's something that's always been there for me. I love Picasso and Gaudi and, Duchamp, just so the surrealists and just, so that's been very influential in my life. And, it might show up in things that I'm putting out in the world, but you wouldn't necessarily know that it comes from that. But that is probably one consistent thread of inspiration that I can point to.
When you were talking about the paintings, my mind leapt to Guernica.
Yes. Well, Guernica is what led me to Madrid, because at the time it was housed in El Prado, the smaller museum of the Prado Museum. And I think I went there to see that painting in person, and I went many times just to stand there. And I think it was how Picasso captured just the injustice of war and the innocent people, elderly and women and children, and just the injustice that happened to them, and how he captured that in black and white. So that is like a really inspirational painting for me in my life. And I think like inspired like the kind of the justice activism part in me. And I want to also say the Spanish culture, I think, has that slowness to it, where they really respect a cadence of life and a pace that is so humane, that is every day having extended lunches and siestas and the shops close. And that definitely inspired and influenced aspects of slow beauty. And I really got into the culture living there a few times and visiting and traveling.
Travel has been such a huge part of my life, as you know, Shel, because when you step into different cultures that have different time signatures, right? Every culture has its own musical rhythm and time signature,
yes.
And different rests and crescendos and decrescendos. What's so beautiful about travel is that it makes you sing a different melody. It makes you hear a different rhythm. When you speak about what Spain means to you and Madrid and Barcelona, I feel that way about Mexico City and Bangkok and Paris.
Yeah, those are fabulous cities as well.
Fabulous.
Bangkok is, wow. I mean, talk about rhythm. Like that was just, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
You have to experience it. Okay, yeah. I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
What step in your life was the biggest yes and your biggest leap of faith?
Oh my God. It's like the singular thing. There were so many things. I mean, okay.
Pick
so
one. Just pick one.
Professionally, I'd have to say slow beauty, because that was a real leap of faith. To talk about slow beauty in an industry that's known for fastness, I think was a big yes that I committed to, and completely committed, continue to, commit to that message and concept and idea. So I would say that was a big yes. And having a family and raising a family, and that's a big yes also. And a wonderful yes. I mean, my kids are just everything, to me. And So that's a big yes. And then I like that idea of like taking that leap of faith. And I believe there'll be another yes in my near future that I don't know exactly what it is, but I feel it. I feel it bubbling under.
Yeah. I think we're all in a moment of yes, because we've been in a winter for 2 years almost now. And when it's spring and the possibilities are just endless, I think.
They are. They are. They always are.
Shel, thank you so much for your time today and your willingness to share your voice and your wisdom with us. I am so grateful to you for sitting down with me.
And thank you, Patrick. I'm grateful to you too. I always love our conversations so much. They're always so heartfelt and exciting and fun. So thank you for having me here. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. And to those of you who are watching and listening, remember, we all have a voice, so use yours wisely.